Imagine you just wake up. Right, the room around you is blindingly white, and hovering right in the center of it is this bubble.
But not like a normal bubble.
No,
Yeah.
exactly, not some fragile soap film. It is vibrating, it's humming with this intense electric current radiating every color of the rainbow.
Yeah.
And you step inside, and suddenly you are just rocketing over the freezing fells of Finland, shooting raw lightning into the sky, on your way to an underground iron bunker that houses the ancient Ark of the Covenant.
It is wild.
Yeah.
Today, we're completely, tearing up that traditional soft-focus Renaissance painting of a spiritual awakening.
Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is to unpack this truly breathtaking and frankly heavily symbolic narrative known simply as Texti, which was translated by Topi Haltu.
Right. And the source material, I mean, it reads like a high-stakes cosmic epic.
It really does. We've got a massive stack of notes here detailing everything from, this electric bubble flight to a horrifying confrontation with a blood-drinking witch and a deeply intimate climax involving a family and a blue pearl gate. Mm-hmm.
But what we really want to explore today is the why. Like, why do human beings, when pushed to the absolute limits of spiritual warfare or personal trauma, construct these incredibly extreme, surreal landscapes to process what they're going through?
That is the core puzzle of visionary literature, isn't it? I mean, when an experience fundamentally defies normal human language,
Right.
when you're dealing with these ultimate concepts of salvation or addiction or cosmic evil, everyday vocabulary just collapses.
Yeah, you can't just say, I felt a strong sense of goodness.
Exactly. The mind has to reach for the most overwhelming, high-contrast imagery available in its, cultural hard drive just to even approximate the feeling.
Which brings us perfectly back to that bunker, because I am fascinated by how this narrative starts. The protagonist flies this vibrating rainbow bubble over Paihetenturi.
Which is a very prominent fell in Finland, for those
Yeah.
who might not know.
Right, thank you. And they land it inside this massive underground bunker. Huge iron hatches pull open with a literal crash of thunder.
I love that visual. And the bubble lands on two giant open golden palms, acting like landing pads. Sunlight shines through the hatch, illuminating these massive letters on the floor that spell Ipmil.
Which is the northern Sami word for God.
Right.
And, uttering that word opens a massive rock wall into this gold-plated circular room.
Yeah, with a sloped floor, right.
Yes, and right in the center is a bright blue glow holding the Ark of God's Covenant. And touching that glow triggers visions of the protagonist's family and the empty tomb of Yeshua.
Oh, wow.
And then, before they know it, they're sucked into the light with this visceral roller coaster sensation.
Yeah, the text says they end up on the burning wings of a fire angle, just launching into the spirit realms.
Exactly.
So I have a theory about this opening, because it feels so jarring to see the Ark of the Covenant, this ancient wooden gold-covered relic from the desert, sitting inside a hyper-modern iron bunker with electric bubbles and mechanical hatches.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Right. My thought is that if you're trying to convey ultimate, impenetrable security to a modern listener, a stone temple just doesn't cut it anymore. We know
No.
stone crumbles,
Mm-hmm.
but a subterranean titanium or iron bunker, that is our current cultural pinnacle of safety.
That is a really sharp way to look at it. You're talking about operationalizing the divine.
Exactly.
Historically, visions often placed the divine in these pastoral settings, right? Gardens, clouds, quiet mountaintops.
Yeah, very serene.
But by housing ancient spiritual power inside a mechanized, heavily fortified bunker, the narrative is asserting that this power is not passive. It isn't just sitting there being revered. It's an active, fiercely protected, almost weaponized force.
Right. It bridges the ancient spiritual reality with an industrial sense of scale and utility.
It definitely makes the stakes feel massive, like you've just walked into the command center of the universe.
And speaking of scale, the narrative immediately thrusts us from this localized bunker into a macro, nationwide spiritual war. And the contrast here is staggering.
Oh, it really is.
It made me think of, the highest contrast graphic novel you can imagine, where the line work is just pure, blinding white against absolute pitch black.
Yeah, the visual extremes in this text are relentless. They're specifically designed to overwhelm the senses.
So on the side of the light, we have this event described as the healing of Finland. The protagonist sees Yeshua throw a burning sword directly into the heart of the Maiden of Finland.
And for you listening who might not know, the Maiden of Finland is the national personification of the country, based on its shape on a map.
Right, right. So as the sword strikes, the blood of Christ spreads from the north to the south, turning the entire nation bright white.
Hmm.
And this brilliant light eventually spills across the whole globe. The dead wake up, the sick are completely healed, and there's this overwhelming vision of huge, pure smiles on people's faces across all cultures.
It's just a sequence of total aggressive purification. I mean, the sword isn't a weapon of destruction here.
No.
It's a surgical tool triggering a global renewal.
And it continues at a very specific place, Ulujärvi Lake, specifically an area called Paltaselka.
Right.
The protagonist is suddenly in a wooden granary holding a golden sickle. A freezing breeze kicks up, a dark storm is rolling in on the horizon, but as they cut the golden yellow wheat, they again see those smiling faces from all over the world.
They're securing the harvest right before the storm hits.
Exactly. But this is where I get a bit tripped up. If you were describing a cosmic, global apocalypse where the dead are waking up across the Earth, why place it in a wooden granary at a specific lake in central Finland?
You're wondering if that shrinks the scale.
Yeah, doesn't that shrink the scale of a universal event?
It might seem counterintuitive, but psychologically, it actually amplifies the scale.
Really? How so?
Think about how the human brain processes information. We cannot genuinely comprehend the concept of the whole world. It's just too vast, too abstract. If a threat or a salvation is happening everywhere, it often feels like it's happening nowhere.
Because there's no personal anchor to it.
Precisely. By anchoring these massive supernatural themes to highly specific local geography, Pyhätunturi, Ulujärvi Lake, the Maiden of Finland, the narrative makes the infinite feel tangible.
Ah, yeah.
It tells the reader that this cosmic war isn't unfolding in some distant galaxy or a mythical realm. It is happening in your backyard. It binds the ultimate destiny of the cosmos directly to the protagonist's own cultural and geographic identity.
That reframes it completely. It grounds the supernatural in the dirt of the familiar. And man, we definitely need that grounding because the text immediately drags us into what it calls the core of darkness.
Yes, the tone shift here is brutal.
And I have to warn you listening, the imagery here is genuinely horrific. We go from a golden wheat field to a dead autumnal oak forest. The bare branches are casting claw-like shadows over a disgusting red manor, and there is a poison green substance literally dripping from the windows.
The sensory shift is so intentional. Notice how the light was characterized by pure white and golden yellow, and now we're dealing with the colors of rot and toxicity.
It is deeply unsettling. So inside this manor is a star-shaped temple. Sitting in the middle is the witch Jezebel, dressed in bright red, sitting on a bench made entirely of human bones.
It's just awful.
She has blood dripping from her mouth because she is drinking from a chalice filled with the blood of beaten, naked seers who are chained to the floor, screaming that they will never deny Yeshua.
Yeah.
And the ambient noise in this room, there are black curtains hiding this terrifying cockroach-like chirping sound. She summons these black-robed, hooded creatures that make an insect-like clicking noise, and they're holding dark axes covered in runic writing.
The introduction of insectoid imagery is a classic hallmark of describing demonic or parasitic forces.
Why insects, though? Like, why not wolves or bears?
Because a predator like a wolf has a certain majesty, or at least an understandable motive, right?
Sure.
Insects in the human subconscious often represent a mindless, devouring swarm. The cockroach chirping, the clicking creatures. It strips the darkness of any grandeur.
Oh, that makes sense.
It frames evil not as some majestic fallen angel, but as a parasite. It is rot, decay, and mindless consumption.
Wow. That makes the divine rescue in this scene even more poignant. Because just before those runic axes strike the chained seers, Ipmil intervenes. But not by stopping the axes physically.
No, it's much more metaphysical.
Right, God takes their souls an instant before the strike.
Yeah.
The text describes their souls rising like burning embers, lifted by angels straight to God's throne to serve in joy, completely bypassing the witch's physical execution.
It's a stunning victory hidden inside a brutal physical defeat.
It really is.
It redefines what survival means in a spiritual context. The physical body may be destroyed, but the essence, the ember, is untouchable.
But this brings us to a part of the source material that genuinely gave me whiplash.
Oh, I think I know where you're going.
We shift from this macro cosmic war into a deeply personal micro level of persecution for the protagonist. And at first, it starts with an incredible display of power.
The miracles in Kajani.
Yes. So the protagonist is in Kajani, kneeling by a black river flowing with skulls and dark creatures. They touch it with a wooden staff, and the river turns into a glowing, clear current filled with goldfish.
Beautiful imagery.
Then they walk on water, preach in a dark square, and the crowd actually mocks them. Someone throws a liquor bottle that shatters on their head, giving them a concussion. They just shout, "Jesus saves!" And this black mist of demons, specifically named as spirits of alcohol and fornication, is washed away by bright rains of the spirit.
And the fire angels there too.
Yeah, the fire angel uses a sword to strike black chains off the people in the crowd. From there, the protagonist is teleported to a hospital, the windows glow, tumors vanish, missing limbs grow back, and the dead in the morgue resurrect. It is an absolute peak of miraculous triumph.
It is the ultimate manifestation of divine authority flowing through a human vessel.
But I have to stop you there and push back on the text itself, because immediately after resurrecting the dead, a voice simply says, "Trial." And suddenly, the protagonist is kidnapped on a dark road. Specifically, the Sotcamo road by men in black called the Knights of the Black Rose Ring. And what follows is some of the most brutal torture I ever read.
It gets really intense here.
A blowtorch taken to their toes, nails torn off with tweezers, gasoline thrown on their face. They are tied to a stake to be burned and only survive because the fire angel wraps its wings around them to block the physical flames.
And even that isn't the end of it.
Far from it. God says, "You must pass through the room of agony and pain." The protagonist is chained to an iron table with hooks tearing their flesh. They're bound by a poison green chain representing addiction, while a demon named Spiritus Fortis mocks them for their past drinking.
Yeah.
Then there's a red-hot chain representing childhood trauma, fornication, and sadism. Finally, they scream for Jesus, and the fire angel literally tears the wall off the room and shatters the chains with a blue fire sword.
It's a lot to take in.
I just have to ask, why? Like, why write this? To go from emptying a hospital morgue to getting your toenails burned off feels like, gratuitous torture porn. It feels completely disconnected from the message of healing.
I completely understand why it feels gratuitous on the surface, but if you look at the mechanics of visionary literature and really the psychology of human trauma, this sequence is the most crucial part of the entire narrative.
Really?
Yes, this is a literal, brutal manifestation of the dark night of the soul.
But why is it necessary to endure that much agony if they already have the power to heal?
Because there is a profound difference between being a conduit for power and possessing true spiritual authority. The text is making a very specific theological and psychological argument. You cannot dismantle the chains of others until you have intimately confronted your own.
Oh.
Notice what the chains are made of. They aren't just generic iron.
Great. The poison green chain of addiction and the red-hot chain of childhood trauma?
Exactly. These are the deepest, ugliest manifestations of the protagonist's own human pain. The demon mocking their past drinking isn't a random monster. It is the personification of their own shame.
Wow.
The narrative is insisting that divine power isn't a cheap magic trick you can just perform on a crowd. True authority is earned by integrating and surviving your own shadow self. By personally enduring the room of agony, the protagonist proves that their victory over addiction and trauma is a hard-won, grueling reality.
Okay, that actually completely changes how I view the scene. So the protagonist isn't just like a superhero blasting bad guys. They are a wounded healer.
Exactly.
You can't banish the mist of alcohol from the crowd in the town square if you haven't had the poison green chain of your own addiction ripped out of the wall in your own basement.
Precisely. It gives authentic, agonizing weight to the spiritual journey. It tells the listener, the divine doesn't bypass your trauma. It requires you to walk through the center of it.
And walking through that trauma makes the transition into the climax so much more earned. Because the macro-cosmic battle and the micro-personal suffering finally collide in a desperate fight to protect the protagonist's family.
Right. The family dynamic is so central here.
It is. Jezebel, the witch from the core of darkness, turns her attention to what the text affectionately calls the Northern Family of White Riders, or Team Halt 2.
I love that name.
It's like a superhero squad. She sends a violence demon covered in bleeding faces and an ugly shame demon, and they're dragging this horrific witch bell made of human bones.
The imagery of the bone bell is fascinating when you consider what it represents.
Well, the text says that when the witch actually looks at the protagonist and their siblings standing together, the bone bell brightens and violently explodes. Jezebel actually shrieks in terror at them.
The unity is literally too much for her.
And this leads into a sequence that I think holds the key to the entire narrative. The fire angel takes them into a dimming white pearl room. The sister is lying there seemingly dead. Demons are whispering that she won't wake up.
Such a tense moment.
But the brother hands the protagonist a Bible, and the letters turn into fiery gold. They read the words of Jesus, "Awake, you who sleep," like he said to Jairus' daughter and Lazarus. And the fiery letters fly off the page into the sister's heart, waking her up.
And then Christ takes that pearl. Wait.
Yes, Christ takes this pearl and places it into his crown. And I want to pitch an analogy to you about this pearl motif, because it shows up as a protective room and later as the ultimate destination.
Oh, I'd love to hear it.
So I was thinking about the room of agony we just discussed, and it hit me. Pearls aren't rocks.
Right.
A diamond is made by applying massive dead pressure to carbon. But a pearl is biological. A pearl only exists because a parasite or a jagged grain of sand got inside an oyster, causing intense irritation and pain.
Oh, wow.
To survive, the oyster coats that trauma in layers of nacre. The pearl is literal trauma that has been transformed into armor.
That is an incredibly potent way to read this text. It perfectly aligns with the themes of the Room of Agony. The beauty and the protection of the pearl are the direct biological result of surviving the pain.
And it stands in such stark contrast to the witch's bone bell.
Let's push that further.
Yeah.
Look at the dichotomy the author has built. Jezebel's world is constructed from human bones, rotting oak trees, and dripping poison.
Yeah, it's all dead stuff.
Exactly. It's all fragmentation, decay, and things that have been killed. The bone bell is made of shattered, dead pieces. But a pearl is smooth, whole, luminous, and created by a living organism protecting itself.
Oh, that's so good.
When the bone bell shatters upon seeing the family, it is the fragmented nature of evil collapsing when confronted by a unified living bond that has transformed its trauma into an impenetrable shield.
That is beautiful. The unity of the family, Team Haltu is the pearl, and they absolutely need that shield because the final escapes are completely wild.
They really are.
After the sister wakes up, they're following the Good Shepherd, who is radiating immense light. Suddenly, the narrative blends the ancient and the sci-fi again because flying saucers piloted by the demon Apollyon swoop in to attack them.
It is such a jarring, fascinating choice to use UFO imagery there.
Right. But the Good Shepherd doesn't even flinch. He just shatters the flying saucers with a swing of his wooden staff.
Incredible.
Then they enter a black tunnel, and this grotesque black angel with 3 skulls under its hood attacks them with sticky hands. But the fire angel is right there, piercing it with a blue flame sword and blowing it to 1,000 pieces.
And then comes the final ascent.
Yes, finally, the Holy Spirit sweeps them up like a whirlwind. They find themselves inside a lightning-flashing pearl, traveling at the speed of light, arriving at the blue pearl gate guarded by giant angels with golden swords. It's described as a place where tears are wiped away and they finally meet their creator.
It's a stunning, serene resolution to an incredibly chaotic, agonizing journey. The pacing of the text brings you from these frantic high-speed battles into a profound state of rest.
It really is. We have covered an immense amount of ground today. If you're listening to this, think about the sheer scope of what we just walked through.
It's a lot.
We started inside a vibrating electric rainbow bubble over a Finnish fell. We witnessed a nation turned bright white by a burning sword, and we stared down the gruesome, rotting depths of the core of darkness.
Yeah.
We sat chained to an iron table in the Room of Agony, confronting the poison-green reality of addiction, only to arrive, finally, at the serene, triumphant love of family at the Blue Pearl Gate.
And while the imagery is intensely surreal, the underlying architecture of this text is deeply universally human.
Exactly.
It uses the absolute extremes of supernatural horror and divine wonder to map out the very real internal wars we all fight. It gives form to the struggle against our own inner chains, and it illustrates how trauma, when confronted and integrated, can become the very pearl that protects us.
It highlights that the bonds of family and faith, that Team Haltu dynamic, can literally shatter the fragmented noise of our darkest moments.
It proves that sometimes, in order to articulate our deepest pains and our greatest hopes, we have to borrow a language that pushes entirely beyond the ordinary boundaries of reality.
Which leaves us with a final, provocative thought for you to mull over as you go about your day. We've seen how this narrative uses the cultural vocabulary of its time iron bunkers, flying saucers, local Finnish geography to give a shape to the infinite.
Right.
If our brains constantly use the most advanced concepts of our current environment to translate the incomprehensible power of the divine, What will a vision of ultimate spiritual warfare look like 1,000 years from now?
That's a great question.
When flying saucers and iron bunkers seem as ancient as a wooden granary or a golden sickle, what kind of machinery will the human mind invent to describe the exact same blue pearl gate? Next time you find yourself struggling to explain an overwhelming, complicated feeling, remember this text. Sometimes, to show the world what is truly happening inside you, you don't need a clean, polite explanation. You just need to build a vibrating rainbow bubble and shoot lightning into the dark.